My husband's boss claimed him at 2 a.m. She never expected my silent revenge. The night I answered my husband's phone at 2 a.m., I never imagined those 3 words would destroy my marriage and give me the perfect opportunity for revenge. You know that moment when your entire world shifts on its axis? When everything you thought was solid ground suddenly becomes quicksand beneath your feet? That's exactly what happened to me on a cold Tuesday night in November. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break you. Sometimes, if you're smart enough, patient enough, and angry enough, it transforms you into something far more dangerous than the naive woman you used to be. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how my husband's boss thought she could steal my life and how I made sure she regretted every single second of it. Part 1. The Call. The phone's shrill ring pierced through my dreams at exactly 2:17 a.m. I knew the time because I checked, my heart already pounding with that primal fear that comes with middle-of-the-night phone calls. Nothing good ever happens at 2 a.m. Everyone knows that. I reached across the bed instinctively, my hand searching for Mark's warm body, but his side was cold. Empty. The sheets hadn't been disturbed. My fingers found his phone on the nightstand instead. He must have forgotten it when he left for his emergency work meeting 6 hours ago. The caller ID made my blood run cold. Victoria Sterling, do not ignore. Victoria Sterling, my husband's boss. The woman he'd been talking about constantly for the past 3 months since she transferred to head the Seattle office. She's just really driven, he'd say. She expects excellence. What he didn't say, but what I'd started to suspect, was that she expected a lot more than just excellence. My thumb hovered over the decline button. Every instinct told me not to answer, to just let it ring into voicemail, to preserve whatever illusion of normalcy still existed in my marriage. But another part of me, the part that had been noticing the late nights, the new cologne, the way Mark's eyes wouldn't quite meet mine anymore, that part needed to know. I answered. Finally, a woman's voice purred, smoky and satisfied. I was starting to think you'd passed out on me, baby. You really wore me out tonight. There was a pause, and I could hear the rustle of sheets. When are you coming back to bed? I'm cold without you. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I was hearing. Mark? The voice came again, slightly concerned now. Baby, are you there? I should have said something. Screamed, cried, thrown the phone across the room. Instead, I found my voice, and it came out eerily calm. This isn't Mark. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost hear her mind racing, calculating, trying to figure out how to spin this. Oh. That single syllable carried so much. Surprise, yes, but also something else. Something that sounded disturbingly like satisfaction. You must be Sarah. The way she said my name, like she'd been tasting it, studying it, preparing for this moment, made my skin crawl. He talks about you, she continued, and I could hear her shifting, probably sitting up in whatever bed she'd lured my husband into. You should know, this isn't just some fling. Mark and I have a real connection. What you two have, it's comfortable, sure, but it's not passion. It's not. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of building a life together, of supporting him through business school, of postponing my own career dreams so he could chase his, of trying for a baby that never came while he assured me we had plenty of time. 8 years, and he was in another woman's bed at 2 a.m. while I slept alone in ours. The front door opened downstairs. I heard Mark's footsteps. He was trying to be quiet, probably thinking I was asleep. I listened to him climb the stairs, each step bringing him closer to the bedroom where I sat in the dark, his phone still in my hand. The door opened. He was silhouetted against the hallway light, loosening his tie. He hadn't even bothered to make up a good excuse. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair messed up in a way that had nothing to do with running his hands through it in stress. "Sarah?" He noticed I was awake. "Did I wake you? The meeting ran really late." Victoria called. I held up his phone, watching his face in the dim light. "She wanted you to come back to bed." The color drained from his face. For a moment he looked like he might try to deny it, to spin some elaborate lie. But we'd been married too long. He knew I could read him. "Sarah, He stepped into the room, hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. It just happened. I didn't mean for... How long?" My voice still had that eerie calm to it, like I was asking about the weather. "It doesn't matter. How long?" He sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. 3 months. Since she transferred here. 3 months. A quarter of a year. All those late nights. All those work emergencies. All those times he'd been too tired to have a real conversation with me. He'd been with her. "Do you love her?" I don't know why I asked. Maybe I was hoping he'd say no, that it was just physical, that our marriage still meant something. He looked up at me, and the guilt in his eyes told me everything before he opened his mouth. "I don't know. Maybe. She's just so alive, so ambitious. We connect on a level that..." He stopped himself, realizing what he was about to say. "That we don't?" I finished for him. "Is that what you were going to say?" "You gave up, Sarah." His voice took on a defensive edge. "You gave up on your career, on your dreams. You became this domestic version of yourself. Victoria, she challenges me. She pushes me to be better." I stared at this man I thought I knew. This man I'd supported through every challenge, every setback, every triumph. This man who'd watched me give up a promising career in marketing to move to Seattle for his job. Who'd promised we'd start a family soon for 5 years while putting his career first. Who'd let me believe we were building a future together while he was building a different future with someone else. "Get out," I said quietly. "Sarah, we should talk about this. Get out." The scream tore from my throat. 8 years of suppressed frustration and pain erupting like a volcano. "Get out of this room. Get out of this house. Get out of my life." He left, and I sat there in the dark, Mark's phone still in my hand, and felt the old Sarah, the trusting, supportive, optimistic Sarah, die. Part 2. The discovery. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did what any modern woman would do in my situation. I went through Mark's phone. I know. Invasion of privacy. But the moment Victoria called him baby at 2 a.m., all bets were off. And what I found was so much worse than I'd imagined. Texts. Hundreds of them. Some were work-related, but mixed in were messages that made my stomach turn. Pictures I definitely didn't need to see. And worse. Conversations about me. "She suspects something," Mark had written 2 weeks ago. "Let her," Victoria had responded. "Honestly, this would be easier if she just knew. Then you could leave, and we could stop hiding." "I can't just leave. The divorce would be messy and expensive." "I'm not staying in the shadows forever, Mark. I'm 34 years old. I want a partner, not a part-time lover." "I know. I just need to figure out the right way to do this." I had to run to the bathroom and throw up. When I came back, I kept reading. There were discussions about their future together, where they'd live. My house, apparently, since Mark's name was on the deed. Whether they'd have children. Victoria wanted 2, And Mark was excited about starting a family with someone who actually wants kids. That last part felt like a knife to my gut. We'd been trying for 2 years, 2 years of negative pregnancy tests, of my hopes rising and falling month after month, while he assured me we just needed to be patient. Now I knew the truth. He'd gotten tired of waiting, tired of me, but it was the email I found that changed everything. An email from Victoria to Mark sent 3 weeks ago, with the subject line, "Partnership Proposal," except it wasn't about a business partnership. "Mark," it read, "I've been thinking about our future. With my family's connections and your talent, we could accomplish so much more than you could in your current situation. My father's firm is looking for junior partners, and I've already mentioned your name. The salary would be triple what you make now. We could get married next year, start fresh in New York. You deserve someone who matches your ambition, someone who can open doors for you. Think about it." And Mark's response, "I'm thinking about it. More than you know. I just need to handle things with Sarah first. Maybe after the holidays?" So that was it. I wasn't just being replaced, I was being traded up. Victoria wasn't just stealing my husband. She was offering him a better life. A life I couldn't compete with. The old Sarah would have crumbled. Would have begged him to stay. Would have blamed herself for not being enough. But the old Sarah was gone. I looked at the clock. 5:47 a.m. In 3 hours, Mark would be at the office. Victoria would be there too. And they'd probably spend the day worried about what I might do, whether I'd make a scene, whether I'd try to expose them. They were right to worry. But not for the reasons they thought. See, here's what they didn't know about me. Before I gave up my career to support Mark's, I was damn good at what I did. I'd worked in corporate strategy and communications for one of the most cutthroat firms in New York. I knew how to read people, how to find weaknesses, how to craft a narrative that could build someone up or tear them down. I'd just been playing the supportive wife for so long, I'd forgotten who I used to be. It was time to remember. Part 3. Research. The thing about revenge is that it only works if you're smarter than your opponent. Lucky for me, Victoria Sterling wasn't nearly as clever as she thought she was. I spent the morning doing research. Coffee in hand, laptop open, I dug into everything I could find about the woman who'd stolen my husband. Victoria Sterling, 34, MBA from Wharton, daughter of Richard Sterling, founder of Sterling Investments. She'd fast-tracked through several major companies, always landing in positions slightly above her experience level. On paper, she looked like a prodigy. But as I dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Every company she'd worked for, she'd left within 18 months. And at every company, there were rumors. Nothing concrete enough to stick, but whispers about inappropriate relationships, about using her family connections to get ahead, about subordinates who'd been pushed out after rejecting her advances. There was even a sealed lawsuit from 3 years ago, a former colleague claiming hostile work environment after ending an affair with her. It had been settled out of court, buried under NDAs and her father's money. Victoria Sterling was a predator, and Mark was just her latest prey. But here's what really interested me: her current position at Mark's company, Cascade Technologies. She'd been brought in to turn around the struggling Seattle office, with a contract that included a massive performance bonus if she hit certain targets by year-end. We were now in mid-November. She had 6 weeks to deliver results, or she'd lose out on close to $500,000. I knew from Mark's complaints over the past months that the Seattle office was a mess. High turnover, missed deadlines, client dissatisfaction. Victoria had been brought in as a savior, but from what I could see in the company's public filings and industry reports, things hadn't improved. If anything, they'd gotten worse. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. "I'm staying at a hotel. We need to talk, but I think we both need time to cool down first. I'm sorry." Sarah, I never wanted to hurt you. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I deleted it without responding. Instead, I called my lawyer. Or rather, I called the lawyer I'd secretly consulted 2 months ago, when I first started suspecting something was wrong. The lawyer who'd already prepared preliminary divorce papers, who'd helped me understand Washington's community property laws, who'd advised me to start documenting everything. Rebecca Chen, came the crisp voice on the other end. Rebecca, it's Sarah Mitchell. We need to move forward, today. What happened? I told her about the phone call, about what I'd found on Mark's phone, about Victoria Sterling. There was a pause. Sarah, I know you're hurt right now, and you have every right to be, but I need you to think carefully about what you want to accomplish. Divorce is difficult enough without adding, I want everything, I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. I want the house. I want half his retirement. I want spousal support. And I want him to pay for what he did. Okay, Rebecca said slowly. I can help you with that. But you need to be smart about this. Don't do anything rash. Don't confront her at work. Don't send angry emails. Don't worry, I assured her. I'm not going to do anything obvious. After I hung up with Rebecca, I made another call. This one to my former colleague from New York, Amanda Rodriguez. Amanda had left the corporate world to start her own PR crisis management firm, and she owed me a favor from years ago when I'd helped save her job after a client disaster. Sarah freaking Mitchell, Amanda answered. To what do I owe this pleasure? Please tell me you're finally leaving Seattle and coming back to civilization. I need your help with something. How much do you know about crisis communications? It's literally my job, honey. What's going on? I told her everything. And when I was done, there was a long silence. Holy shit, Amanda finally said. I'm so sorry, Sarah. That's absolutely brutal. I don't need sympathy. I need strategy. What kind of strategy are we talking about? The kind that makes her regret she ever met my husband. The kind that protects me and destroys her career. The kind that's completely legal but absolutely devastating. Amanda laughed, low and dangerous. Now that's the Sarah I remember. The one who made the Bergman CEO resign with a single press release. I was wondering what happened to her. She got married and forgot who she was. But she's back now. Good. So here's what we're going to do. Part 4. The plan. Over the next week, I became someone I barely recognized. Not the broken, betrayed wife crying in bed. Not the angry woman plotting obvious revenge. Instead, I became cold, calculated, and methodical. Mark tried calling. I let every call go to voicemail. He tried texting. I read every message but never responded. He even showed up at the house once, but I'd changed the locks. My lawyer had advised me that since my name was also on the deed, I had every right to secure my property. Sarah, please, he had shouted through the door. We need to talk about this like adults. I'd watched him through the window. This man I'd loved for almost a decade, and felt nothing. No, that's not quite true. I felt satisfaction, because while he was standing on our doorstep begging, I was building a case that would dismantle both his and Victoria's lives piece by piece. Here's what I learned in that week. First, from Amanda's contacts in the industry, I discovered that Victoria's previous fast-track career had left some very unhappy people in its wake. People who'd been happy to talk to me off the record. People with stories about her management style, her ethics, her pattern of romantic entanglements with subordinates. Second, from my own investigation of Cascade Technologies' internal structure, I learned that the Seattle office's poor performance wasn't just bad luck, it was directly tied to Victoria's leadership. She'd been so focused on her affair with Mark, and probably others, that she'd let critical projects fall apart. 3 major clients were planning to leave when their contracts expired at year-end. Third, and most importantly, I discovered that Victoria had been falsifying reports to headquarters. The metrics she'd been sending to the board showing improvement didn't match the actual numbers. She'd been cooking the books to make herself look successful while the office crumbled around her. That was the smoking gun I needed. But I couldn't just expose her. That would be too obvious, too traceable to me. No, I needed to be smarter. I needed her to expose herself. With Amanda's help, I crafted a multi-phase plan. Phase 1 was already in motion. Rebecca was filing divorce papers that would be served to Mark at his office, in front of everyone. Not just because it would be humiliating, though that was a bonus, but because it would force Victoria to show her hand. Would she comfort him publicly? Would she try to hide their relationship? Either way, it would make people start asking questions. Phase 2 involved reaching out to one of those clients planning to leave Cascade Technologies. The CEO, Thomas Harrison, had worked with me briefly in New York years ago. He remembered me. And when I suggested meeting for coffee to discuss some concerns about the Seattle office's management, he agreed immediately. Phase 3 was the most delicate. I needed to get Victoria's falsified reports in front of the right people at exactly the right time, but I couldn't be the one to do it. I needed someone else, someone with credibility and access. That's when I thought of Dylan Chen. Dylan was Mark's former colleague, someone who'd been passed over for promotion when Victoria brought Mark into her inner circle. Someone who'd complained to Mark, and therefore to me, during dinner conversations, about being frozen out of important meetings, about watching less qualified people advance, while his contributions were ignored. Someone who would have every reason to do his own investigation if pointed in the right direction. I composed an anonymous email carefully, using a burner account. Mr. Chen, you might want to look at the Q3 performance reports Victoria Sterling submitted to the board versus the actual metrics from your department's database. The numbers don't match. Thought you should know before year-end reviews. A concerned colleague. I sent it on a Friday afternoon and waited. By Monday morning, Amanda sent me a text. It's working. My contact at Cascade says the board got an internal complaint about data irregularities. They're launching an investigation. Phase 3 was in motion. Part 5. The confrontation. Mark was served divorce papers on a Tuesday during a staff meeting. I know because I'd specifically requested that timing. Rebecca had hesitated. Are you sure you want to be this aggressive? It might make the judge view you as vindictive. But I'd insisted. I wanted Victoria to see it. I wanted her to realize that I wasn't going quietly, that I wasn't going to be the convenient ex-wife who faded into the background while she lived my life. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, knowing exactly who it would be. You vindictive bitch! Victoria's voice hissed. Do you have any idea what you've done? You had him served at work? In front of everyone? Yes, I said calmly. I do know what I've done. I've initiated legal proceedings to end my marriage to an adulterous husband. Was I supposed to send the papers to your apartment instead? This is about more than paperwork, and you know it. You're trying to humiliate him. No, Victoria. He humiliated himself when he decided to fuck his boss while lying to his wife. I'm just making sure there's a legal record of it. Listen to me carefully. Her voice dropped to something dangerous. Mark and I are together now. He's chosen me. You need to accept that and move on with your life. Make this difficult, and I promise you'll regret it. I laughed. Actually laughed. Are you threatening me? That's interesting. How would your board of directors feel about you threatening your subordinate's estranged wife? That seems like it might create some HR issues. You don't know anything about my company. Cascade Technologies, founded in 2010, went public in 2017, current market cap of $2.3 billion. You were brought in 7 months ago to turn around the Seattle office, which has been underperforming for 18 months. Your contract includes a performance bonus of $487,000 if you hit specific metrics by December 31st. How am I doing so far? The silence on the other end told me I'd hit my target. How did you? I used to do this for a living, Victoria. Corporate strategy and communications. I'm very good at research. Want to hear what else I know? I'm hanging up. The lawsuit from 2019. The 3 other companies you left after short tenures. The pattern of workplace relationships that conveniently advance your career. Should I go on? You're bluffing. That's all sealed. All private. Nothing is truly private anymore. And you know what's funny? I haven't even done anything with that information. Yet. I'm just keeping it. For reference. What do you want? Her voice had lost its aggressive edge. Now she just sounded worried. I want you to understand something. You didn't just steal my husband. You looked at my life, my marriage, my home, my future, and decided you wanted it more than I deserved it. You told him I was the problem, that I'd given up, that I wasn't ambitious enough. I never. Save it. I read the texts. All of them. Here's what you don't know about me. I didn't give up my career because I lacked ambition. I gave it up because I believed in partnership, in building something together, in supporting the person I loved. You wouldn't understand that because you only understand taking. This is pointless. Mark loves me. Mark loves what you can do for his career, your father's connections, your family's money, the opportunities you represent. Maybe you love him. Maybe you even believe he loves you. But tell me something. Has he actually left me yet? Or is he still figuring out the right way to do this? Another silence. He's staying at a hotel, I continued. Still paying our mortgage, still listed as married on all his legal documents, still introducing you as his boss, not his girlfriend. How does that feel, Victoria? Knowing that even after I found out, even after I filed for divorce, he still hasn't fully chosen you? He will, as soon as this mess is sorted out. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go through a very difficult performance review at year-end. Your falsified reports are going to come to light. Your bonus is going to disappear. And quite possibly, so is your job. You can't. I didn't. You did. And it's going to be discovered by your own colleagues, who you've been so busy alienating while you fucked their coworker. And when it all falls apart, when you lose everything you thought you'd gained, Mark is going to see you differently. Not as the ambitious, successful woman who could advance his career, but as a liability, a failure. You're insane. No, I'm angry and I'm smart. And I'm done being underestimated. I paused. Oh, and Victoria? Don't call me again. Any further communication should go through lawyers. I hung up and immediately called Rebecca. She just threatened me on a recorded line. Can we use that? You recorded it? I've been recording everything since I found out. Washington is a 2-party consent state, but she called me from California, which is also 2-party. So I needed to be careful. But she never asked if I was recording, and I made sure to mention it indirectly earlier in the call when I referenced making a record of things. If she was paying attention, she had notice. Rebecca whistled. You're terrifying, you know that? I'm learning to be. Part 6. The Unraveling. The investigation at Cascade Technologies moved faster than I'd anticipated. Within 2 weeks, 3 things happened almost simultaneously. First, Dylan Chen submitted a formal complaint to HR and the board, complete with documentation showing discrepancies between Victoria's reported numbers and the actual performance data. He'd done his homework, building on the anonymous tip I'd sent him. Second, Thomas Harrison, the CEO I'd met with, officially withdrew his company's contract renewal, citing concerns about leadership instability and declining service quality in the Seattle office. In his withdrawal letter, which somehow found its way to industry blogs, he mentioned that these concerns had been brought to his attention by a former colleague with insight into internal operations. Third, another employee came forward, a woman named Jennifer Marsh, who'd worked under Victoria at her previous company. She filed a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment and hostile work environment, claiming that Victoria's pattern of inappropriate workplace relationships had created a toxic culture that damaged her career. The dam had broken. I watched it all unfold from my living room, tracking each development through Amanda's updates and my own careful monitoring of industry news and social media. Victoria Sterling's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, and she knew exactly who was behind it. She tried calling me 17 times that week. I didn't answer. She sent emails, first angry, then pleading, then threatening again. I forwarded them all to Rebecca. Mark finally showed up at the house again, this time looking haggard and desperate. "Sarah, please," he said through the door. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "What is there to talk about?" "Victoria says you're behind all of this. The investigation, the lawsuit, the client leaving. She says you're destroying her career." "Is that what she says?" "Are you? Because if you are, you need to stop. This has gone too far. Her career, her reputation." "Her career?" I stared at him. "Her career. That's what you're worried about? Not our marriage? Not the 8 years we spent together? Not the fact that you cheated on me with your boss? But her career?" "That's not what I meant." "Do you love her, Mark?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. "I think so. Yes, I do. And she's talking about if she loses her job, if her reputation is destroyed, I don't know what she'll do. She's not doing well, Sarah. And I know you're angry. I know you hate us both. But could I just what? Stop? Let it go? Forgive and forget?" I stepped closer to him. "Let me tell you what Victoria Sterling did to me. She didn't just sleep with my husband. She systematically dismantled my marriage. She made you believe I was less than her. She planned a future with you that included taking my house, replacing me in your life, and erasing me like I was just an inconvenient obstacle. And when I found out, when I called her on it, she threatened me. She wouldn't. I have the recording, Mark. I have all the texts between you two. I have emails where she explicitly planned to push Sarah out so you two could start fresh. I have documentation of every lie, every manipulation, every cruel comment she made about me. So don't you dare come to my door and ask me to show mercy to the woman who showed me none. What about showing mercy to me?" His voice cracked. "I made a mistake, Sarah. I know that now. I got caught up in something, and I made terrible choices. But I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you this badly. But you did hurt me, and you were willing to keep hurting me. You were planning to wait until after the holidays to leave me. Were you going to break up with me on Christmas? New Year's? Were you going to sit through Thanksgiving dinner with my family, knowing you'd already decided to leave? I don't know. I didn't have a plan. Everything got so complicated. Let me simplify it for you then. We're getting divorced. You'll get your freedom. You can be with Victoria or not. That's your choice. But I'm not stopping anything I've started. Her career problems are her own doing, not mine. She falsified reports. She created a hostile work environment. She violated company policy by having a relationship with a subordinate. Those are her choices, her consequences. Please, Sarah, I'm begging you. If you ever loved me, I did love you. I loved you enough to give up my career for yours. I loved you enough to support you through every challenge. I loved you enough to try to have your children even when it broke my heart month after month. But you know what? That love ran out the moment Victoria called you baby at 2 a.m., and I realized you'd been lying to me for 3 months. I started to close the door, then stopped. One more thing. The divorce papers include a request for full financial disclosure. That includes any gifts, loans, or financial support you received from Victoria or her family. I know about the partnership offer at her father's firm. I know she was using her family connections to lure you away. If you took any money or accepted any financial benefits from her while we were still married, that's considered community property in Washington state. My lawyer will be very interested in all of that. His face went pale. You can't. I can. And I will. Goodbye, Mark. I closed the door and locked it, listening to him stand there for a few minutes before finally leaving. Later that night, Amanda called. You might want to see this. She sent me a link to a tech industry blog. The headline read, Cascade Technologies places Seattle office director on administrative leave amid investigation. The article was brief, but damaging. Victoria Sterling, who joined Cascade Technologies 7 months ago to lead the troubled Seattle office, has been placed on paid administrative leave, pending the outcome of an internal investigation into allegations of data manipulation and workplace misconduct. Sterling, daughter of prominent investor Richard Sterling, could not be reached for comment. This development comes as the company faces client defections and declining performance in the Seattle market. It's happening, Amanda said. Everything is falling apart for her exactly like we planned. We didn't plan this, I corrected her. We just helped the truth come out. Semantics. How do you feel? I thought about that question. How did I feel? Not triumphant exactly. Not happy. But something else. Something like justice. I feel like I'm finally taking back control, I said. For 8 years, I let Mark's career, Mark's needs, Mark's timeline dictate my life, and then Victoria thought she could take even that. Well, neither of them gets to decide my future anymore. I do. That's my girl. So what's next? Next, I rebuild. I've been thinking about your offer. 3 days earlier, Amanda had suggested I join her firm. You're wasted in Seattle playing housewife, she'd said. Come to New York. Help me build this company. You'd be perfect for crisis management. You've certainly proven that. Are you serious? About New York? Dead serious. I need someone smart, someone ruthless when necessary, someone who understands how to manage a narrative. That's you, Sarah. That's who you were before, and that's who you're becoming again. Let me think about it. Think fast. This offer expires when you stop being angry enough to be useful. I laughed. You know what, Amanda? I don't think the anger is going away anytime soon. Let's do it. Part 7. The Fallout. The next 3 weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, packed boxes, and carefully constructed press responses. The investigation at Cascade Technologies concluded with Victoria's termination. The official reason given was gross misconduct and violation of company ethics policies. Her performance bonus was forfeit. Her reputation in the industry was destroyed. Industry blogs and LinkedIn whispers made sure everyone knew she'd been fired for falsifying reports and creating a hostile work environment. Her father tried to spin it, tried to use his connections to land her a position elsewhere. But Jennifer Marsh's lawsuit had opened the floodgates. 2 more women came forward with similar stories from Victoria's past companies. The pattern was undeniable. Mark tried to stand by her at first. He really did. But as the weeks passed and Victoria spiraled, angry calls, desperate attempts to salvage her career, the slow realization that she'd lost everything. I watched him pull away. It wasn't hard to track. He'd started posting on social media again, and there was a notable absence of any mention of her. The divorce proceedings moved faster than typical because Mark just wanted it over. He agreed to most of my terms. I kept the house, got half his retirement, and received spousal support for 5 years. In exchange, I agreed not to pursue any claims on Victoria's gifts to him. The expensive watch, the trip to Cancun they'd taken under the guise of a work conference, the new wardrobe he'd bought after she'd criticized his suburban style. Let him keep those reminders of what his betrayal cost him. On a cold December afternoon, I signed the final divorce papers in Rebecca's office. 8 years of marriage ended with a few signatures. Rebecca handed me a copy of the decree. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Honestly, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." "That's good. You know, in 20 years of practicing family law, I've never seen someone handle a divorce quite like you did. You never lost control. Never let emotion override strategy. Never did anything that could be used against you in court. I had good motivation and a clear goal, which was to make sure that when this was over, I was standing and she wasn't." Rebecca smiled slightly. "Mission accomplished. So what's next for Sarah Mitchell?" "Actually, it's going to be Sarah Chen. I'm taking back my maiden name." "Fresh start?" "Something like that." I left Rebecca's office and drove through Seattle one last time. Past the coffee shop where Mark and I had our first date. Past the apartment we'd lived in when we were newlyweds. Past Cascade Technologies' office building, where Victoria had once reigned, and where Mark was probably still trying to salvage his own damaged reputation. I felt nothing. No nostalgia, no regret, no longing for what I'd lost. Because I hadn't lost anything, I'd shed dead weight. My phone rang. Amanda. "Hey, are you ready for this? I just signed the lease on your new apartment. Corner unit, view of Central Park, walking distance from the office. You're going to love it." "I can't wait to see it." "The movers are scheduled for next week, right? And you start on January 2nd? "That's the plan." "Excellent. Oh, and Sarah, I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. What you did these past few months, it wasn't just revenge, it was self-resurrection. You remembered who you were." "No." I corrected her gently. "I discovered who I could be." Part 8. The Unexpected Twist. I'd like to say that was the end of it. That Victoria slunk away into obscurity. That Mark learned his lesson and moved on. That I rode off into the sunset with my new life in New York. But life is never quite that neat. 3 days before I was scheduled to leave Seattle, my doorbell rang at 8 p.m. I almost didn't answer. I was neck-deep in packing, surrounded by boxes and bubble wrap. But something made me check the doorbell camera. Victoria Sterling stood on my doorstep. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, eyes red from crying. A far cry from the polished, predatory woman who'd called me at 2 a.m. 3 months ago. Every instinct told me not to open the door, to call the police if she wouldn't leave, to maintain the wall I'd built between us. But curiosity won out. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "What do you want, Victoria?" "I want to talk. Just 5 minutes. Please." "I don't think we have anything to say to each other." "Please, Sarah. I know I don't deserve your time, but I just need you to understand." Against my better judgment, I stepped out onto the porch and closed the door behind me. No way was she coming into my house. "You have 5 minutes." She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering in the December cold. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For Mark. For the things I said. Save it. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. You're right. She looked up at me, and I was startled to see genuine emotion in her eyes. You're right. I'm not sorry I fell for Mark. I'm not even sorry I pursued him, even though I knew he was married. But I am sorry for how I treated you. The things I said about you, the way I talked about you to Mark. I made you into this villain in my head, this obstacle, and you weren't. You were just a woman who loved her husband, And you destroyed my marriage anyway. I destroyed a lot of things. She laughed bitterly. My career, my reputation, my relationship with my father. Did you know he won't speak to me anymore? Says I've embarrassed the family. Mark won't return my calls either. I know. She looked at me sharply. You know? I've been tracking his social media. Old habits die hard. He hasn't mentioned you in weeks. I'm guessing he decided you weren't worth the trouble once you lost your job and your connections. He told me he loved me. He loved what you could do for him. I tried to warn you. You did. I should have listened. She was quiet for a moment. The lawsuit from Jennifer Marsh. Did you know about her before all this? I found out about the sealed case from 2019. I didn't contact Jennifer, but once the investigation started at Cascade, I'm guessing she felt safe enough to come forward. Sometimes all it takes is one person standing up for others to find their courage. So you didn't orchestrate everything. I orchestrated the beginning. I made sure the right people knew about your falsified reports. I made sure your pattern of behavior came to light. But the rest? That was all you, Victoria. You built that house of cards yourself. I just gave it a push. She nodded slowly. I deserve everything that happened to me. I know that. But I need you to know something. She met my eyes. What I said that night on the phone, about Mark and me having a connection, about you giving up, I didn't mean it. I was trying to hurt you because I felt guilty. The truth is, Mark talked about you constantly. About how smart you were, how you'd given up your career for him, how guilty he felt that you'd made all these sacrifices. I used that guilt to drive a wedge between you. I made him feel like staying with you was weakness, like he owed me something because I wouldn't ask him to sacrifice anything. Why are you telling me this? Because you should know that you weren't the problem. You were never the problem. And someday, when he's alone and realizes what he lost, he's going to know that too. I studied her face, looking for manipulation, for an angle. But all I saw was a broken woman who destroyed everything chasing something she thought she wanted. Your 5 minutes are up, I said quietly. She nodded and turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. I know you're moving to New York. Mark mentioned it before he stopped talking to me. I hope you build an amazing life there. The kind of life you deserved all along. The kind I tried to take from you. Victoria? I called as she walked down the steps. She turned back. Get help. Therapy. Counseling. Whatever. Figure out why you need to tear other people down to build yourself up. Because if you don't, you'll just do this again to someone else. I know. She got in her car and drove away. I stood on the porch for a long time after she left, processing what had just happened. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant. She'd come to grovel, to admit I'd been right, to acknowledge what she'd done. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and ready to leave all of this behind. Part 9. The New Beginning. I landed in New York on December 29th, in the middle of a snowstorm that would have shut down Seattle for a week, but barely registered in Manhattan. Amanda met me at my new apartment with Chinese takeout, champagne, and a thick folder. Welcome home, she said, pulling me into a hug. God, I've missed you. I've missed you too. This city, the energy, all of it. Wait until you see the office. We've got your space all set up. Corner office, view of the Hudson, your name on the door. Sarah Chen, senior partner. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Senior partner? Amanda, I haven't done this work in 8 years. And you just spent 3 months orchestrating one of the most effective reputation takedowns I've ever seen, all while going through a divorce and dealing with your husband's affair. If that doesn't qualify you for crisis management, I don't know what does. We ate Chinese food surrounded by moving boxes, catching up on everything that had happened since we'd last worked together. Amanda told me about the clients we'd be working with, Fortune 500 companies dealing with PR nightmares, celebrities trying to rehabilitate their images, politicians in need of damage control. Speaking of which, Amanda said, pulling out the folder she'd brought, your first case starts next week. I opened the folder and immediately started laughing. No, I said. Absolutely not. Come on, hear me out. You want me to do crisis management for a CEO accused of having an affair with his assistant? After everything I just went through? That's exactly why you're perfect for it. You understand all the angles. You know what the wife is thinking, what the assistant wants, how to navigate the media. Plus, the CEO is willing to pay us a ridiculous amount of money. Amanda, look, I know it hits close to home, but this is what we do. We step into the mess and figure out how to clean it up. And you're the best at this I've ever seen. I looked at the folder, at the details of the case, at the photos of the CEO and his young assistant looking guilty at a restaurant, and I thought about Mark and Victoria, about how differently things might have gone if someone had stepped in earlier, if someone had forced them to face consequences sooner. Okay, I said. I'll do it. But on one condition. Name it. We don't protect predators. We don't help people cover up genuine misconduct. If this CEO harassed her, if there was a real abuse of power, I walk. Amanda smiled. Deal. That's actually our company policy. We only take clients who genuinely want to make things right, not just make things go away. When did you become so ethical? When I saw what you did to Victoria Sterling, you didn't just destroy her. You exposed the truth and let consequences follow. There's a difference between revenge and justice. You taught me that. We clinked our champagne glasses together, toasting new beginnings. Part 10. 6 months later. It's June now, and I'm sitting in my office overlooking the Hudson River, reviewing contracts for a new client. My phone rings. It's a Seattle number I don't recognize. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Sarah? I mean, Ms. Chen? It's Dylan Chen. From Cascade Technologies? Dylan, hi. What can I do for you? I hope it's okay that I called. I got your number from your business website. I wanted to let you know. Well, I thought you'd want to hear. Mark resigned today. I sat up straighter. He quit? More or less. The Seattle office is being shut down. After Victoria's mess and losing those contracts, headquarters decided to consolidate operations in San Francisco. Mark was offered a position there, but he'd have to start over at a lower level. He declined. So, what's he going to do? From what I heard, he's moving back to the Midwest, close to his parents, taking some time to figure things out. Dylan paused. I wanted to thank you, actually. After everything came out about Victoria, they promoted me to interim director. And last week, they made it permanent. It's a huge opportunity, and honestly, if you hadn't done what you did, if Victoria had stayed and Mark had kept advancing, I'd probably still be stuck in the same position. I'm happy for you, Dylan. Truly. There's one more thing. Victoria showed up at the office last week. She was trying to collect some personal items she'd left behind. She asked about you, where you'd moved, what you were doing. I didn't tell her anything, but she said to tell you, if I ever talk to you, that she's in therapy now, working on herself. She said you'd understand what that meant. After I hung up with Dylan, I sat staring out my office window for a long time. Mark had lost his job, his wife, his future with Victoria. Everything he'd risked it all for. Victoria had lost her career, her reputation, her relationship. And me? I'd lost a husband who didn't value me and gained a career I loved. I'd lost a marriage that was slowly suffocating me and gained my freedom. I'd lost the life I thought I wanted and discovered the life I actually needed. My assistant buzzed in. Sarah, your 3 o'clock is here. The governor's chief of staff about that scandal we discussed? Send them in. As I prepared for the meeting, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different than I had 6 months ago. Sharper, more confident. The kind of woman who knew her worth and wouldn't settle for less. The kind of woman Mark had foolishly let slip through his fingers. The kind of woman Victoria Sterling had tried to defeat, but only made stronger. Epilogue. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But that's not quite right. Revenge is a dish you should never have to serve at all. If people simply treated each other with honesty and respect. I didn't set out to destroy Victoria Sterling's life. I set out to protect my own. To ensure that when my marriage ended, I wasn't left with nothing while they rode off into the sunset with everything I'd built. What happened to Victoria was the natural consequence of her own actions, the falsified reports, the inappropriate workplace relationships, the pattern of behavior that finally caught up with her. I just helped speed up the inevitable. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if I went too far. If I let my anger push me into territory I shouldn't have explored. But then I remember that phone call at 2 a.m. Victoria's smug voice calling my husband, baby. And I know I did exactly what I needed to do. I saved myself. And in doing so, I rediscovered who I was before I became Mark's wife, before I became the supportive partner who put everyone else's dreams ahead of her own, before I forgot that I was smart, capable, and dangerous when crossed. 3 weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized Victoria's handwriting from old company newsletters. Inside was a single page. Sarah, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I've started over. New city, new name, new career in a different field. I'm seeing a therapist twice a week. I'm learning that the patterns I fell into, using people, manipulating situations, tearing others down to build myself up, they started long before Mark, long before you. I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, not even for losing, but for looking at your life and thinking I had the right to take it. You were never in my way. I was in my own way. I hope New York is everything you wanted. I hope you're building the kind of life where no one can make you feel less than you are ever again. V. I read that letter 3 times, then filed it away. Not out of forgiveness, I'm not there yet, and maybe I'll never be, but because it reminded me of an important truth. Hurt people, and healed people, heal people. I'm healing now. Not from what Mark and Victoria did to me. That's just scar tissue at this point. But from years of making myself smaller, quieter, less ambitious for someone else's comfort. From believing that my worth was tied to being a wife instead of being myself. Last month, Amanda and I landed our biggest client yet, a Fortune 100 company dealing with a massive workplace culture scandal. The contract is worth more than Mark will make in 3 years. My old salary, the one I gave up to support his career, I make that in 6 months now. And you know what the best part is? I earn this. Not through connections or family money or sleeping with the right people. Through skill, intelligence, and the kind of ruthless strategic thinking that Victoria Sterling thought she had but never really understood. She thought being ruthless meant being cruel. I learned that being ruthless means being clear about your worth and unwilling to accept less. This morning, I got coffee at a shop near the office. The barista, a grad student with bright purple hair, made conversation while preparing my order. "You always look so confident," she said. "Like you know exactly who you are. I want that someday." "You'll get there," I assured her. "Sometimes you just need someone to push you, or spectacularly betray you. Both work." She laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't entirely joking, because here's what I learned. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing. Sometimes betrayal cracks you open just wide enough for you to see the truth. About yourself, about your life, about what you're actually capable of when you stop holding back. Mark's betrayal didn't break me. It broke the cage I'd been living in. Victoria's attempt to take my life didn't destroy me. It destroyed the illusion that I needed anyone's validation to know my worth. And that 2 a.m. phone call that shattered my world? It woke me up. Finally, painfully, necessarily woke me up. So if you're reading this story, if you're the person lying awake at 2 a.m. because you just discovered your world isn't what you thought it was, know this. You're stronger than you think. You're smarter than they've let you believe. And you have a choice. You can let betrayal define you, or you can let it refine you. I chose refine. And I've never looked back. The end. Sarah Chen went on to build one of the most successful crisis management firms in New York. She never remarried but dated successfully and on her own terms. Mark moved back to Indiana, where he works in middle management and spends his weekends regretting his choices. Victoria Sterling changed her name, moved to Portland, and became a high school guidance counselor, a job where she helps young people make better choices than she did. They never saw each other again, but sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet and the lights of Manhattan shimmer below her office window, Sarah Chen thinks about that 2 a.m. phone call and smiles. Because that was the moment she stopped being someone's wife and became someone's worst nightmare. And she wouldn't change a thing.